So I thought I'd give my 2 cents on the new Star Wars film that's come out recently, the Star Wars The Last Jedi. I know everybody has already done it, and I'm a bit late to the party, and who gives a shit about Rambler's thoughts and feelings about the film, because, seriously, who gives a shit? But anyway, I did go see it. I wasn't planning on seeing it. I actually spoiled the plot for myself by watching other people's reviews of it, specifically the Cinema Snobs, Angry Joe, and well, no, I think that's the only reviews I saw actually in the end. But anyway, other way. Oh, and then I read it on Wikipedia as well. So I already knew what was going to happen in the film before I even went to see it. Um, but I went and saw it anyway because when I was finishing up work for the Christmas holidays, my mate called me up, an old mate of mine, and he was like, "Do you want to go see it?" And I was like, no, I want to go to bed." But at the same time, I hadn't seen it for a while. I was like, "Oh, all right, no, I won't be lazy. I'll go see it with you." And I'm glad I did, because we did go and see it, and I actually quite liked it. I thought it was a good film. I actually had a lot of fun watching it. Thought it was a lot more fun than The Force Awakens, and I get the film for being what it is in terms of it's a good film, but I also get, or at least I think I get, why people really don't like it. I'm sure you already know, the film has caused quite a division in terms of not just Star Wars fans, but I guess audience members in general, but probably mostly Star Wars fans, the ones who really love the films. They love the first three, the prequels, all the books and shit. The diehard Star Wars fans. I don't know what you call them, but whatever. They're kind of split down the middle, because again, the general consensus seems to be that the film is good, but it has bits in it that are cool and bits in it that you're like, what the flying fuck. And I totally get that impression of the film. I'm not a diehard Star Wars fan. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Not a massive fan of the film franchise. I don't hate it. I just don't love it. I'm not in love with it, but it's certainly not bad. And I think the original films of the 70s and 80s eras were really, really good. I like the Phantom Menace, but probably for reasons that are really stupid. I still like it to this day. It's indefensible. It isn't a great film. I'm not going to defend it or anything. It isn't a great film. There's just something about it I like. I can't put my finger on it, and I'm happy with that because I like it. Attack of the Clones is fucking boring. I don't care what anybody says. That was fucking horseshit. Revenge of the Sith was mostly horseshit. Okay, we all knew what was going to happen, but it was mostly horseshit, in my opinion, anyway. But it doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, that's just my view on the prequels. But the new Star Wars films, again, I quite like. I like The Force Awakens. It was a safe bet. I agree with people who said it was just a rehash of A New Hope. It was, but it wasn't bad. I enjoyed it at the cinema. I mean, I didn't come out thinking it was amazing, but I certainly came out and went, I had a good time. And I thought Harrison Ford in it was the best part of the movie until they decided to kill him. But then again, when I did a bit of deeper research, it turns out Han Solo should have been killed off in Empire Strikes Back, because that's what Harrison Ford wanted, and apparently that was going to be the original plot point until George Lucas decided, no, we need to sell more toys, and they changed it. But anyway, when it happened, I wasn't that surprised. But either way, I thought, hey, Force Awakens, safe bet, good Star Wars film, certainly better than the prequels. Boy, where can you go wrong? But obviously, it led a lot of trepidation to The Last Jedi, especially at the end of Force Awakens, when Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker was briefly seen at the end. He didn't actually have an active part in that entire film at all, till the very end, when Daisy Ridley as Rey walked up to him on an island somewhere in England, I think, or the UK, probably not England, Scotland or Ireland. I don't know where the fuck they filmed it, but whatever. Somewhere in the UK that's not England. And she goes to hand him the lightsaber, and he holds it, and he looks perplexed, and that was it, end of film. And you're like, oh my god, there's Luke Skywalker. And then in this film they build on it, and I have to say, from my perspective, I enjoyed the film. I was surprised. I thought it was very well filmed. I thought, from a cinematographer's perspective, it was done well. I thought actually better than what J.J. Abrams did. I thought The Force Awakens was a good film. There were moments where I could tell it was a J.J. Abrams directed film, but that's only because I watched the original Star Trek. Not the original Star Trek, but the rebooted Star Trek film that he did, and I enjoyed that as well. I thought that was a great film. Yes, I know the iPod look of the Star Trek films everybody hated, but I liked Star Trek. I really did. I thought the new Star Trek film was really good. And I like the old classic William Shatner Leonard Nimoy series. That's my favourite, and all the other ones I don't give a shit. But anyway, point being is I like that. So I didn't mind The Force Awakens, but I could tell it was a J.J. Abrams film. Whereas with this one, who Ryan Johnson directed, I know I recently did a video where I cursed him for saying, "Oh, we must introduce female, black, racially diverse directors to the Star Wars franchise." I don't give a shit. Just whoever directs a Star Wars film, if they show passion and love the lore and love the series and put their own take on it, I don't give a crap who they are. If it's a good film, you get my thumbs up, and I think that's what they're trying for. But I hate it when they make a point of it. I'm just like, don't make a point of it. Just do it. I don't give a shit. But I could tell from The Last Jedi, the new Star Wars film, they tried the whole make it racially diverse. Yes, okay, we've got Finn, the black actor, who's I don't know who plays Finn, the black, I don't know his name. That's how bad I am. But I like Finn. I liked him in Force Awakens. I liked him in this. Finn was good. Thought Finn was alright. He was fun. I really enjoyed him. Never had a problem with Finn. They introduced a Chinese actress or Chinese American actress. I don't know who she was, but she played a character in this film. And she was alright. She was fine, to me. She's been given a lot of slack lately for her part in the film, not as an actress, but just for her role in the Star Wars film, this new one. But I thought she was alright. In fact, the most diverse part of this film, it wasn't that diverse, but it had some diversity to it. I was okay with it. And the reason why I was okay with it is because, thank fucking Christ, at least from the film's perspective, they didn't make a major political point about it. It didn't feel forced. It felt very natural, and it was great. The characters who were being portrayed by these ethnically diverse actors and actresses were alright. They were great. I enjoyed them on screen because they were just being their character, and that's what was good. So, no problem there. I thought, no, the characters in the film overall, I really enjoyed watching. I didn't find a character annoying, nor did I find a character false or forced or, out of place. A lot of people were criticising bollocks. What was the actress name who was in the Jurassic Park? Was it Laura Dern? I forget her name. I apologise. She plays a key part in this film. That actress who plays Dr. Sadler in the first Jurassic Park film, I think it's Lauren Dern or something like that. You'll know who she is. I'm sure if you've got incompetence and all that, you'll know. Everybody said she was a bit out of place in this film. She was fine. I had no problem with her whatsoever. She was okay in this film. Everyone said she's been a bit miscast. Well, not everyone, but some of the key critics have said, "Oh, she's miscast." Key Star Wars fans, I was like, no, she's fine, no problem whatsoever. Didn't mind her at all. In fact, if anything, I thought personally, the weakest actor in the film or actress was Carrie Fisher. But you could tell from the film she wasn't very well. She, as we all know, she died very shortly after supposedly completing her filming of the film. I mean, maybe there would have been some extra stuff afterwards, but the main cinematography and photography, she died shortly afterwards, which is a tragedy, obviously. But given her history and backgrounds, it was kind of hardly surprising, really. But I'm not here to bash about her. I like her. She was great in the Blues Brothers. She was great in the Star Wars film. Personally, I think as a person, she was all right. So what? She has addictions. Everybody does. In some form or another. But anyway, you could tell in this film she was not very strong. She didn't have a strong presence as Leia. You could tell she was very tired and very weak. But I think that was more from her perspective as an actress. She did seem unwell. At least from my perspective, you could tell she seems tired and fatigued and very old, more older than she appeared. Maybe that had a factor in it. Who knows? But anyway, doesn't matter. I still enjoyed her presence in the film, but I thought she was the weakest in the film. But again, I think that was not the writing or the directing or anything. I think that was just Carrie Fisher not feeling very well. But other than that, everybody else actually did well, especially Mark Hamill. Mark Hamill in this film was really, really good. He didn't actually play that much of a part in it, which I was a bit sad about. He was still very sidetracked in this film. Obviously, he played a bigger part in this than The Force Awakens, but he was still very sidetracked in this. But Mark Hamill, fucking great actor. I love this man. I really do. Mark Hamill's a great guy. He not just for Luke Skywalker. I personally like him for the Joker in Batman. Excellent voice actor, but I like him as a person. I've watched a lot of video clips of him doing voice acting work for the Joker, where you can see him physically acting the part out, where a lot of voice actors would just stand there or sit there and do the part, and obviously use their vocal talents to emote and make the characters that they're voice acting come alive. He doesn't. He's there standing up and really giving it a physical performance, even though it doesn't matter. It's all about the voice. He throws it in. He's brilliant. Mark Hamill's a fantastic chap. In my opinion, anyway, he's really cool. he was good in this film as an actor, and as Luke Skywalker, he was really good. And okay, he was sidelined as a bit of a mentor character and a bit of a, you know, oh, I'm going to die sort of character. Spoilers, he does. But to be fair, the way that they killed him off wasn't that bad, actually. But I do, after I watched some post-interview footage of Mark Hamill on The Last Jedi. I don't usually do that sort of thing because I'm not a diehard fan of it, but I was interested. He didn't like the way that Luke Skywalker was treated in this film, initially anyway, nor did he like the way that he was going to be sent off. And I can see why. Skywalker is very negative in this film. He basically plays the traditional, I was once a really main character, and then I tried to go to the future and train people to be like me, and I fucked it up because I didn't know how to train them, and then the one person went dark, and then that's it. I just self-exiled myself away from everything because fuck you all, I'm an asshole, and I can never forgive myself, blah, 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 blah. He played that sort of character, and I can see why Mark Hamill was annoyed by that. But having said that, though, even though it's a typically cliched sort of character, a tragic hero, sort of so to speak, he played it really well, and I actually think it came off all right. And I didn't mind the way they treated Skywalker in this film, and I certainly love the ending. I won't spoil the ending for you. I'm sure if you've seen the film, you know what I'm talking about. But the ending, okay, I've said he dies, and he does, as a spoiler, but he dies in a really cool way. But what he does before he dies is fucking badass. I love it. Cliched, very, very true to the Star Wars franchise and a homage to earlier Star Wars films, but it was really good. And he looked good. He looked great as a mature Luke Skywalker. They didn't pull any punches on him. He looked good. He spoke well, and he was good in it for what he was given, the role he was given in the film. He was great. Love Mark Hamill. Fantastic role in the film. I just think they really underused him. They should have used him a bit more, but I get why they didn't, because Disney, who now have bought the Star Wars franchise, they want to try and wean themselves away from the old characters. Of course, the actors and actresses have got old, and Carrie Fisher's passed away, sadly, and a few others as well who voiced some of the key characters, the puppets and all that from the older ones. They want to try and make it stand up on its own with new actors and actresses and new stories so they can milk it for all it's worth. Totally get it, and I respect that. It's just the way they did it was a bit shit, in my opinion, but whatever. Anyway, I'll get to that later. I've got to keep an eye on the time because the League of Gentlemen's on in a bit. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. Overall, the film, I thought it was directed well, and I love the cinematography in this film. It felt much more like a Star Wars film, in my opinion, than The Force Awakens did. I really honestly thought this was an episode of the Star Wars saga in a good way. So kudos to Rian Johnson for that, or Rian Johnson, whatever the fuck his name is. Kudos to him for doing what he did. It was good. It was good. And I actually thought, writing-wise, it wasn't that bad for a Star Wars film. It was certainly okay. And a lot of people have criticised it for being too, or trying to be too humorous, or too forced comedy type thing. Like they reckon that it's supposed to be a darker entry in the series, and yes, there certainly is some dark sides to this film, definitely. But it tried to be, it tried to be too humorous, or whatever the correct word is for it. And people were criticising it for it, but I actually thought it was fine. I really didn't come away from this film thinking this is forced humour. I just thought, nope, Rian Johnson's just trying to make it a Star Wars funny film. He's done it, in my opinion. It was alright. It was fine. I honestly didn't think it was forced in any way. That being said, I do agree with... No, actually no. Let's just keep things separate. No, the humour was fine. And some of the cinematography choices and scene sort of choices, some people complained about the casino scene being too long. It was fine. That wasn't too long at all. Maybe I saw an edited version of the fucking film. I don't fucking know. But the version I saw, the cinema scene didn't overstay its welcome at all. So I don't know why people are complaining about that, assholes. It was fine. I won't spoil it much. I won't go into much detail about it, but it's all right. It's fine. Like I said, so the sort of what I'm trying to say is the general direction of the film, cinematography, the feeling of the film was definitely very Star Wars, at least in my opinion. From a cliched Star Wars point of view, it certainly ticked the boxes, and not in an offensive way. I wasn't offended by the diverse cast. I thought they were fine. I thought they were okay. They weren't forced or anything. They seemed genuine. They're just getting on with their parts, which is good because that's what I want to see. I'm happy with that. And the story-wise, it was Star Wars. Typical Star Wars story. Not the greatest story, but serviceable. It worked, it was alright. But yeah, some of the faults then that I will admit, yeah, I can see why people are fed up with. Yeah, the story itself is a bit weak. Basically, the Resistance are suddenly on the run. They're doing shit. They've been blown up. They're evacuating. They spend the whole film on the run from the whatever the fuck they're replacing the Empire with. I forget the name of it now. I knew it. I can't remember what it was. First Order or whatever the fuck they are. They're on the run from them the whole film. The whole film is basically a giant chase. I'm okay with that. I like giant chase films. But yeah, it was a giant chase, and I can see why some people were a bit sort of like, "What is that? It?" Yeah, it is, but it was alright in my opinion. But yeah, I can see why people were a bit upset by the whole fact that it was a giant chase. And there was a certain plot device or plot point in the film that actually was completely rendered pointless. And that involved Finn and the new character they introduced with a Chinese actress or Chinese looking actress called Rose. The whole plot line with them two actually was, in my opinion, considered completely fucking pointless. By the way, it all played out in the end. You're like, well, why didn't said character who was in charge of it just tell other said character the plot, or i.e., what their idea was, and that could have all been avoided. So yeah, that was a bit stupid, really, in my opinion. There's a plot point where one character tries to, be the hero and say, "What are you going to do? What are you going to do to save us, Resistance? We're on the run, for fuck's sake!" And the other character that they're speaking to is just taken over, and they're like, "I'm not saying anything. I'm just keeping it a guarded secret." And you get the initial impression they don't know what they're doing, other than they're just basically stalling for time, and maybe they know they're going to die, and they're just trying to stall for time until that moment. But it turns out actually they did have a plan, and it was a plan under layer and all that stuff and all that shit. But the point being is because of that revelation that happens, you're like, well, why couldn't you have just told said person who demanded what the idea was, what the plan was, and they probably would have gone with it. Fucking idiot. So yeah, there was a plot line in the film that went on for a good chunk of the film that you could argue was rendered pointless. It probably wasn't, but I thought it was. It was rendered pointless. So that was a bit weird and a bit disappointing. Not enough to ruin the film for me. I still enjoyed it, but you think, yeah, that was a bit stupid. So that was a bit bad. The second point that I thought was bad was they killed a couple of characters off after they built them up in The Force Awakens. Lord Snoke, or whatever the fuck he is, was killed off very quickly in this film, and in a bit of a disappointing way. He was built up quite a lot in The Force Awakens. Yes, everybody made fun of him for being called Lord Snoke, but he was just there in his bathrobe going, "I am the evil guy. I am replacing the Emperor. Evil, 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 evil. Kylo Ren, you are my evil bitch. Evil, evil, bathrobe. Evil, evil." That was basically all his dialogue was. Evil, evil, bathrobe. And when he gets Rey in his possession, because Rey tries to save Kylo Ren, thinking that he's still good and he's not, all that bollocks. Snoke gets basically Rey presented to her by Kylo Ren, and he does the whole useless, right pervert, not paedophile, but pervert. Sorry, poor choice of word. He was a bit downplayed, but you could tell cliche bad guy, and he's just dead. He just got killed off about 2/3 of the way through the film, really disappointingly, and it's kind of left the whole episode 9 concept in a bit of doubt, because you think, well, what are you going to do now? Yeah, okay, you got this guy who's taken over now, but what's the conflict, Is it really just going to be the resolution of this conflict that actually ended up being really shit? I don't know. So yeah, that was a bit crap. And he was killed by Kylo Ren. Kylo Ren kills him. Really a bit weak, but whatever. I can see why they did that, and Ryan Johnson did it for the reason why. But no, they killed him. And I can't remember the name of the silver, the shiny silver suited stormtrooper, Phasma, I think the name was. Builds up in The Force Awakens to be much, but when she's in it, you're like, oh yeah, it's her. Oh, come on, be more badass. And she challenges him to a fight on that shit after he gets captured and shit. And she's killed off too. She's killed off as well, just like that. No problems at all. Big build up from her from The Force Awakens. Boom, dead, done. Really disappointing. And the way that she's killed off, I thought the imagery behind her and Finn do have a fight. It doesn't last very long. In the end, Finn overpowers her. And then a part of her helmet gets fractured, and you can see the human face of whoever's behind the mask. Like you see, like the eye, a blue-eyed person underneath. And she says, "You are scum," when she's on her deathbed, and he's like, "I am rebel scum," says Finn. But the way that they did it, it was implied. It was implied. as a sort of political nod, so to speak. So yeah, anyway, I've got to go for a moment. I'll be back in a second and we'll carry on rambling later. Anyway, yeah, sorry, I'll come back now. I've just watched the League of Gentlemen, the 20th anniversary radio special. Bloody good, by the way. If you haven't watched the League of Gentlemen, please do. It's so good. But anyway, yeah, so as I said, yeah, no, other faults in the film, the way that they dealt with Luke Skywalker at the end, it's a bit pussy. I mean, it was cool, it was badass, but he didn't do much in the film. He really didn't. He could have been completely removed from it and not much different would have happened. I get why they've done it again from a Disney and executive and Star Wars perspective, but it just wasn't very satisfactory. Having said that, it wasn't bad. I wasn't as pissed off with it as a lot of Star Wars fans are with this. I just thought, fair enough, it is what it is, because he can easily come back. I mean, the moment where Luke goes to burn the Jedi Temple and Yoda comes back. They bring Yoda back, by the way, for a cameo as his Force spirit form or whatever. That was really well done. That was brilliant. I loved it. And obviously Luke can be the Force ghost spirits, things that Obi-Wan, Yoda, his father was and everything. So he may have a small cameo role in the next Star Wars film. Who knows? Probably not, but he could do. But the way that they sort of sent him off was a bit disappointing. But at the same time, obviously everybody knew he was going to die. I personally thought it was alright, but at the same time I could see why people are pissed off with it. Yeah, he could have done it a bit better. And the way Mark Hamill commented on the script when he was reading it, and he was saying, look, that's not what the Jedi's all about. The Jedi isn't defeatist. Luke Skywalker wouldn't be negative. He's positive. He would be thinking that this could all work out. I get where Mark Hamill was coming from, because, yeah, he is very negative in The Last Jedi, to the point where you're thinking, this isn't fucking Luke Skywalker. This is mentor character, lost his way, but will come back and die. Cliched number 395, whatever the fuck. It wasn't original. And I can see where Mark Hamill probably would have been a bit upset about it. Maybe he was joking about it, who knows? I mean, obviously from an interview perspective, he might be just pulling the legs, but I like Mark Hamill, and I believe when he was like, what the fuck's this script? I believe him, you know? But that's just my opinion. Obviously, it's up to people's interpretation, and of course Mark Hamill himself. But, yeah, the way that they sort of dealt with Luke Skywalker was a bit shit, really, but not insultingly shit. Just, you could have done it better. But what they did do wasn't bad. It was certainly entertaining and cinematically quite cool and badass. It wasn't definitely not the worst way to send him off. It was badass the way they sent him off. But I just sort of think you could have done it maybe a little bit more respectfully. But maybe not by much. It was only like an increment type thing. Which is why I'm not so pissed off with it. I'm like, no, fair enough. What had happened. And yeah, it wasn't great. But I liked it. But I can see why people are annoyed by it. But either way, Mark Hamill in the film was really good. And, you know, the person who played Rey, Daisy Ridley, she's not bad in it either. She was good in The Force Awakens. I liked her, at least for the first hour and a half. At least the first half of the film of The Force Awakens. I thought the character Rey was good. She was strong, independent, her own self, wasn't forced or anything. It felt natural to the film and the character and the protagonist or whatever the role she plays. It felt natural. It was good. And it was only when she discovered she had Force abilities and held Luke's lightsaber in at least The Force Awakens, where it went a bit cliched, and she suddenly went from this strong character and independent and on her own to this, I don't know what I'm doing kind of thing. She kind of went all damsel in distress type shit. And it was a bit cliched and a bit not quite with her. I'd have thought she'd be like, okay, I can do this. It's a bit scary, but I'll fucking use it and be badass, you know. In this film, she is a bit more cliched again, but she's not hateable. She's alright. She's just standard folly. It's nothing special, but she's not bad either. Nothing's forced. It's just cliched. She's alright, but what pissed me off about her was the whole idea with, not as an actress or the character itself, it was the whole resolution of her parents. The whole big deal about The Last Jedi is she finds out about her parents, because you don't know anything about her in The Force Awakens, and there's been lots of theories about how she might be the missing daughter of Han Solo and Leia, or maybe Luke Skywalker's daughter, etc. And that's been all thrown away. Turns out she's a nobody. She's a nobody, and her mum and dad were just basically some junkers or whatever they call them, who sold her off for money to get high on drugs. And that's that. Which is fair enough, but one of the biggest sort of problems, well, not problems, but I guess insults, I'm not quite sure how to put it, but basically by the end of The Last Jedi, it kind of gives off the message that it doesn't matter who you are, you can be a Jedi. And that's okay and all, because at least that's a feel-good thing. But I thought the whole point of the Jedi was there wasn't many of them. You had to have Jedi bloodline, and the whole Jedi were special people who could be in contact with the Force and be able to use it. But it wasn't like a thing that anybody randomly could have. You know, it was a bloodline thing. And you could argue as well, you know, what about bastard children or families of the Jedi who were never discovered until later? That will probably be resolved in later films, but what basically it's done is they built up this whole concept of the Jedi being quite special in the 6 previous films, only to turn out that it doesn't matter. And that was made even worse in The Last Jedi, by Yoda burning the temple and Luke burning the temple, and him basically turning around saying failure is the greatest teacher, and therefore the Jedi stuff is all a load of bollocks, and it doesn't matter. And I see again why they've done that. It's so then future Star Wars films can have anybody as a Jedi, and they've done that already with books, novels, video games, and other films, etc. But it kind of they retconned all that when The Force Awakens came about. When The Force Awakens came about, they said all this sideline stuff they'd done is not canon to the franchise, which was a bold step to make. And that pissed a few Star Wars fans off. But in this one, yeah, they were like, anybody can be a Jedi. And it felt a bit forced and a bit crap, in my opinion, anyway. It felt like as if, well, what makes the Jedi special? Because the Jedi are no longer special anymore. If anybody can be a Jedi, it's no longer special. It just is what it is. And again, I know in the franchise that it's hinted at that's not the case, but you could argue again, all the ones who were Jedi that came out of nowhere were bloodline descendants of families that were forgotten about, or families that hadn't been mentioned yet. And they'll probably do that with later movies and later stuff for Disney's perspective. But then why insinuate anybody can be a Jedi only to then later say, oh well, actually they were from a Jedi bloodline that was forgotten, and they were from a Jedi forgotten. Again, not everybody can be a Jedi by that point. No, they can't. It's like the whole wizarding world thing in Harry Potter. You can have witches and wizards from a Muggle family being a child from a family that has no wizard bloodline at all whatsoever, and then all of a sudden they've got wizard bloodline, or they got wizard's blood in the kid, or whatever. You know, they're a Muggle born or whatever. It's the same sort of thing, and I can see that has upset a lot of Star Wars fans. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And I got that impression. I just thought, you've just made the first 6 films, maybe even the 7th one with The Force Awakens included, completely fucking pointless. Not pointless as in the plot or anything, but pointless as in the whole Jedi mythology. It's all just been slapped in the face. And again, I suppose it makes sense, but you know, I suppose they could have done it in a bit more better way. They could have basically acknowledged that yes, the Jedi are special people with special bloodlines, but hinted at that there are lost bloodlines with the text or something, the Jedi text. That would have made it a bit more palpable. But no, the way they come across, or at least Warren Johnson did anyway with his movie, it was a bit boring, cliched, not special, but not offensive. Just sort of like, oh, because it basically means Luke Skywalker's not special, Anakin Skywalker's not special, and you could argue he wasn't anyway, because in The Phantom Menace he was just some slave trader boy found on a random planet with a mother who wasn't a Jedi or anything like that. You could argue they'd already done that, but again, you could argue, well, they were part of a bloodline that wasn't mentioned. You know, they didn't make a big deal out of it. He was just found and then he was made a Jedi, but they didn't insinuate that anybody could be a Jedi, so therefore they didn't insinuate that he was not part of a specific bloodline. You know, it was left ambiguous, which is fair enough. But in this film, The Last Jedi, they were like, no, anybody can be a Jedi. Doesn't matter. And I don't like that. I just think that's a bit stupid. But at the same time, I suppose, again, when it comes to story material and being able to carry on the franchise in a way that's not tied to the old characters or the old lore, I can see why they've done that from a Disney perspective. They're going to make money out of this shit. I just think they could have done it a bit better. That's all.
less of a slap to the face of the die-hard Star Wars fans of the old movies. If you're new to the whole Star Wars thing, then you don't give a shit. But if you're the old fan, then yeah, maybe you'd be a bit pissed off. So I didn't like that. And I think that's about it, really. Oh, there was the character of DJ. He was like the code breaker that Finn and Rose were after. And he was after, because the plan was to save the Resistance Starfleet, was the person who oh yeah, that's it. Yeah, before I even go on to that, there was a moment in the film where it was hinted in the trailer that Kylo Ren leads an attack force of the evil bad guys against the Resistance fleet, and there's a moment where Kylo Ren senses his mother on the starship that they're going to blow up, and they both come into contact with one another with the Force, and then Kylo Ren teases in the trailer he's going to pull the trigger to blow up the bridge that she's on and kill her. And you're left wondering before you watch the film, if you've watched the trailer, is he going to do it? Is he going to not? Spoilers, he doesn't pull the trigger, and then these other TIE fighters, or whatever the fuck they're called, come in and do it for him. Not that he commands them, they just do it. And she gets blasted out into fucking space. Basically, Leia on the ship gets blasted out in space, and you think she's dead. And considering Carrie Fisher, who has passed away, you think, oh, I see how they've dealt with the whole Princess Leia thing, or General Leia. She gets blown up on the ship, her corpse is sent out into outer space, and you see her corpse frozen in space. And you see a close-up of it and everything, and you think, actually, yeah, fair enough. It's a sad but fitting end to her character. That's it, she's dead. But what do they do? Nah, fuck that shit. They were like, oh yeah, wait, no, we can't do that because that will insult Carrie Fisher fans. So basically, you see her blown up from the bridge, and she's sent off into space, and the film focuses on her frozen body or freezing body. And you think, oh, she's dead. And then all of a sudden, her hand, it focuses on her hand, or right hand, or left hand, or whatever. It starts to twitch a bit, and she starts to make these finger movements as if she's doing something. And then, seriously, no joke, as soon as she does these movements, she suddenly turns into Super Leia form. She literally adopts the Superman pose when he's about to fly off, and she flies to the nearest rebel ship and gets back on board as if no problem. Yeah, her frozen corpse just goes and she just does the Superman pose and flies off to the Resistance ship that she got blasted off from, and she just knocks on the airlock door that she gets to, and they just let her on. And it's really fucking stupid, and you're like, wait, what? What? Can you not have just let her die at that point, and that would explain General Leia being taken away? It was a fitting end. It's war. She was being attacked by the First Order ships. It makes sense. Nope. No, she does this stupid Force thing, and then does the Superman thing, and then she's back on the Force ship, and it's like no big deal. I mean, she does pass out for a bit, you know, because she's weak from it all. I mean, fucking hell, she froze to death in space, but she's alright. But you just think, really? That's how you're going to treat her? And she lives. She lives till the end of the film. She's alive, basically. So, although Luke Skywalker dies and becomes one with the Force, he, as an actor, Mark Hamill's still alive, and yet Carrie Fisher was meant to play as Leia in Episode 9. Well, she's dead. So what the fuck are you supposed to do? They wrote themselves into a right fucking corner with that. Again, they probably did it as a mark of respect for Carrie Fisher and all that. Fair enough. But you're like, what are you going to do for Episode 9? Doi! You know, they actually had a good fitting send-off there that wouldn't have pissed off any Star Wars fans. It was quite sad, quite poetic though in a way. It was alright. It was a good way to send her off. Fucking stupid. So there's that. That was a bit stupid. But yeah, no, the character DJ, basically after that, to save the Resistance fleet from being killed, the Finn and Rose is this extra character they throw in, who actually wasn't that bad. I thought she was alright. They basically have to go off on a subplot to go and find this bloke to hack onto the evil First Order ships, I forget what they're called, dreadnoughts or whatever, to get on board to defeat this tracking system that's making the dreadnoughts be able to, or the First Order be able to track the Resistance fleet in light speed. So when they go into hyperdrive, whatever the fuck they call it, when they go off into light speed, they can be tracked through light speed, which is apparently not possible until this film. And it turns out there's this tracking device that they have that allows them to do that. So they have to do this subplot thing where they send Finn and Rose out to find this hacking guy called DJ, who's like a really evil version of Han Solo. to use him to get onto the dreadnought ships to defeat this tracking device they have, so that basically the resistance fleet can do another light speed jump or warp drive jump or whatever the fuck it's called and not be tracked, which is fair enough. And it again, DJ in it, he does the double cross, so he works with them and then he sells them to the Empire because he's just a dealer, you know, he's just a freelance agent. He basically does whatever job for the highest price, which is fine. I liked it. I thought, fair enough, whatever. But there's a moment where at the very end of his appearance in the film, he turns to Finn and Rose, who's been captured by the Empire, and he goes, look, don't get me wrong, I didn't do it on purpose. I did it because they offered me more money. It's strictly business. Don't take it personal. And then Finn says something like, yeah, well, your perspective on the world is wrong because at the end of the day, you know, what's to stop you from turning and taking a side? Because basically DJ insinuates that it doesn't matter what side you're on, you're still a pawn in the whole grand scheme of things. They make this point in the film where the Resistance and the First Order are just basically pawns in a battlefield, and the people who profit from the whole thing are people who sell weapons and ships to both sides. They make a point how there's these people who basically act as galactic arms dealers, and DJ basically says to them, look, it doesn't matter what side you fight, you're redundant. At the end of the day, you're nothing but pawns in the market. That is, these people who sell you these weapons, they're the ones who profit from both of you. It doesn't matter, there's no such thing as good and evil, just two sides fighting one another, and you're just bait to the market. You're just nothing but scum to the market that is there to be profit from and leached from. And I thought that was really cool. It was a really clever, deep thing to be able to basically poke fun at the whole Empire versus Resistance thing and say, yeah, it doesn't matter. The grander picture, the big picture is that both sides have been taken advantage of by arms dealers. And I like DJ's perspective on that. It was really cool. But then basically he sells them out, strict to his character, and that's fair enough. But then Finn goes, yeah, well, you know, you're wrong about selling yourself to another side for the highest price. It isn't just about the highest price, it's about honor and decency and all that shit. And then DJ looks at him and goes, maybe you're right. And then just walks away. And you're like, well, what the fuck? Did you basically just turn around and admit that all of your logic and your arguments for it doesn't matter if you're Resistance or bad guy, you're just pawns on the battlefield for the market of arms dealers, and that's the perspective you take, and that's why you profit from both sides? Did you just basically turn around to Finn and say, yeah, everything I told you that's quite metaphysical and philosophical and therefore makes you think about the whole thing in general, in a grand scheme of things? Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe I should join the Resistance. I don't know. What the fuck was that? That's an ending point for that character. It was bollocks. He should have just looked at him and just gone, well, you know, if you got the right price or something like that, and walked off. Again, leaving DJ's character ambiguous as to, yeah, he's in it for the price. Oh, it was so stupid. It ruined it a bit. But it was only a throwaway line, but a line enough to make you think, wait, what the fuck? That's it? You know, that's how you're going to end that character off for this film? Oh, maybe you're right. Maybe I will join the Resistance despite the monetary disadvantage I'll be with, etc. What a fucking load of bollocks. Again, it's a Disney film, so I guess they have to throw it in, but still, whatever. That was stupid. So yeah, I mean, but like I said, there's loads of little other problems with it. Kylo Ren is not as whiny as he is in The Force Awakens, but in this film, he's got some good lines, actually. I like him towards the end. I really do. He's just mad with emotion and energy, and he's devoted to trying doing the right thing. He believes that in order to be who you need to kill the past, and I think he does that relatively well. As an actor and as a character, he's basically trying to bury the past so he can achieve his full potential. I think he does that whole angle of a character quite well. And Rey in this film, yeah, is made redundant, which I said earlier was a bit stupid, but she's not bad. You still like her, and at the end she's got the Force, and she backs up Luke's argument when he dies. He says, I'm not the last Jedi. There are more Jedi out there. See you, kid. When he talks to Kylo Ren, when he has the big fight with Kylo Ren. Yeah, it's obviously just sets it up for that. There's more Jedi out there. And it was okay. It was stereotypical. It was cliche and not stereotypical. It was cliche and expected, but it was alright. But it just made Rey's character less special. It really did. It made Rey just nobody. It didn't give her any speciality. It gave her no persona, no personal sentiment whatsoever, no third dimension to her. She could be replaced with anyone. That character, Rey, could be taken out the film and you could cardboard cut in anybody and they would fit the role well. And that's wrong. That's wrong. That makes the whole thing pointless. Why make a big fuss about having a large, a strong female protagonist as being the lead role in the new Star Wars episode trilogy saga, and that's a big deal these days. And they've basically just turned around and said it doesn't fucking matter. She could be black, man, gay, lesbian, bisexual, transvestite, non-gender specific, penis cut off, vagina cut off, both together, or whatever the fuck. It doesn't matter. Anybody could have fitted her role. And that's that. It basically made Rey a redundant character. Not special, nothing important to the whole franchise, just basically insert Jedi character here. Yet in The Force Awakens, she was built up to be this untapped Jedi potential with a background that nobody knew of. In other words, she was built up to be something special in The Force Awakens, and they just bitch slapped that away in this film. And again, I could see why that pissed off some Star Wars fans. Rey's not important. Rey's redundant. Completely fucking redundant. Not special. Nothing. What, you adversate with these films that we're putting a strong female protagonist. You just completely butt-fucked that then and said, nope, she's a nobody. She's nothing. You can replace her with a fucking gingerbread man and it would be just as important. What the fuck? So yeah, well done. Well done. You butt-fucked that up royally. And I'm not someone who's into the whole PC thing, as you know, but even I'm like, wow. I wanted Rey to be badass and bitching. You just fucked that up. Well done. So there you go. So that's my overall impression of The Last Jedi. I still like the film, however. After all that, I still like the film. I think it's a good film. I really do. I like the film. I enjoyed watching it in the cinema. It's well worth a watch in the cinema. I'm interested to see where they're going to go with episode 9. J.J. Abrams has taken over as director. It was meant to be Colin Trevorrow, or whatever the fuck his name is, but he dropped out, or backed out, or got sacked, or whatever. It's going to be J.J. Abrams. It'll probably be another safe bet sort of film, so it won't be offensive. It'll just be dull, boring, and cliched, probably. But safe, so you won't be impressed, but you won't be disappointed. You'll just come out thinking, whatever. That's what you'll come out as episode 9. I can guarantee you it. But yeah, Last Jedi, not a bad film. I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun to watch, and I think a lot of people agree. It's a good film. It's just, if you're a diehard Star Wars fan, I can see why you would be very pissed off with it. But I'm sure there are some diehard Star Wars fans out there who wouldn't be pissed off with it and love it. And that's fine. It's a polarizing film with the audience. Critics love it, but critics know shit. Or they're paid off, or whatever. Yeah, I can see why this is split down the middle of the audience. See what you think. Watch it. Go watch it yourself and find out what you think. Even my opinion on it is a bit bollocks. Go out and see it. It is worth a watch in the cinema. I will promise you now, you will come out of that film. You won't hate it. You'll most likely love it or like it. But you know that there are a few bits in it where you'll be thinking, what the fuck? But you won't hate it. It's a weird thing. I'll give Rian Johnson credit. You don't hate the film. I don't hate the film. I don't. But I can see why bits of it would make you hate it overall. But it's a good film. I enjoyed it. I had fun. I watched it. I had fun. I did. I don't know. It's a weird one. Whatevers. But anyway, go watch it. Anyway, I'm going to stop now before I can pass out from alcohol. So, thank you for listening if you have all this way. What do you think? Let me know. If not, until then, take it easy. Have a good one. Hope you're all well. I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.